Who's scruffy looking?
What is up, my fellow nerds and gangsters? Welcome back to the Spiffy Nerd Herder channel. I am Danny, and today we are talking about shot planning and specifically storyboarding. Now, we shot Vader in 3.5 days, which is extremely fast considering we only had one camera, but also extremely possible with proper pre-planning.
How'd you do this? I'll show you.
The shooting process while making a movie is far and away the most expensive part of the process because not only are you paying the crew, but you're also renting sets, you're renting equipment, and a bunch of other expenses that don't exist at any other point in the entire filmmaking process. So, pre-planning is absolutely critical.
Great Scott!
One method of preparation is storyboarding. Now, storyboarding basically goes back to the genesis of film. Its purpose is to allow you to imagine and plan the film visually before you shoot, in the cheapest way possible so you know exactly what you need and how you need it. Storyboarding can also be used in conjunction with overheads, written shot list, previs, which I'll go over later in this video. Now, every director has a different process, and no one process is more correct than the other, so you need to find what works for you and for your particular film. On Vader, we storyboarded the opening scene, the chamber scene, and the CG hyperspace shots. We did not storyboard the third scene, or the last scene, but used different methods which I'll go over. Now, I'll save a full scene breakdown for scene 1 for another video, but the very first thing I did for scene 1 was do a full scene analysis. You have to do this before you start planning your shots, and only the director will do this. So if you don't do it, nobody else is going to.
What you talking about, Mr. D?
A scene analysis helps you determine the purpose of each moment in a scene, what its central purpose and turning points are, whose scene is it, and what the character's wants and needs are in the scene. If you can't answer these questions, you legitimately have no business planning your shots yet because you won't know what type of camera work is going to best tell your story and the purpose behind the scene.
I don't know, I can imagine quite a bit.
Camera work in general should support your story, not get in the way. I'm a little bit wary about getting too fancy with camera work because I feel that sometimes the audience starts to focus on the camera work rather than what's going on in the moment of the scene. Spielberg, arguably one of the best directors of all time, is pretty dang good at just keeping the camera still and utilizing blocking of his actors to tell his story. But it's done so well you don't even notice. But ultimately it all comes down to directorial style, however you guys want to do it.
I take orders from just one person, me.
So once I had done my scene analysis and really nailed down the moments and beats of the scene, I started planning my camera angles. I went through the script and I did the big moments first and other angles that had come to my head as I was writing the script, so I had those in there. Then I started doing rough sketches, going through multiple iterations over a couple of months, sharing it with Matt Holla, the cinematographer, and the rest of the department heads, including Philip Bastian of visual effects. They both gave invaluable artistic and practical insights on the shots and how they were developing. Now, are my storyboards the greatest drawings ever? No, they don't need to be. All they need to do is get the point across so that people aren't confused when they're looking at them. Once I felt we had really nailed the camera angles, Ben Judd did a polish pass and really made them look fantastic in what they are so that everybody who looked at them would know immediately what was going on. Now, one thing I want to mention is a question that I hear a lot. Who is responsible for the shots? Well, the answer is the director. As a director, you are 100% responsible for the shots, but you have to work with your cinematographer. By nature of their job, they're on set more than we are as directors, and they've dedicated their craft to visual storytelling. Cinematographers are like,
use my knowledge, I beg you.
Utilize their talent, but ultimately just know that it's up to you. You're responsible for the shots. They're not going to plan the shots for you, nor is it their job to do so.
Got it? Got it.
So back to storyboards now. How do storyboards translate into a shot list? Because storyboards by themselves are just individual frames, like when do you shoot which ones together? And there's so many questions that come out. A shot list is each shot broken down into setups. A setup is each unique camera angle or move that you film. You then do multiple takes of that setup until you get the performance you need. These are all different setups. For me, I went through the storyboards and grouped like storyboards together into individual setups that can be filmed together. For instance, I knew that Sidious would be crawling away from Vader in a wide shot, but by the end, we'd be in a medium close. I knew I didn't need a wide angle for when Sidious delivered this last line.
Just as your fate is mine.
So instead of doing a wide setup of the scene and a medium close setup of the scene, I did one setup where we started wide and then moved into the final position. That's one setup where I'm getting two things out of it. So a director does his best to consolidate his shots into the least amount of setups to save the most amount of time.
That's really good.
Now, once you determine what your setups are, you work with your assistant director to plan the order of the shots. The assistant director is your best friend, and on Vader we had two fantastic ones, Savannah and Lee. Your shot order is determined by a variety of factors. For instance, where is the camera already? Where are the lights? Do they need to be moved? What physical effects are needed? Is there a makeup gag? Is there stunts? All of these things factor into what's the most effective way to order your shots. Because the key goal is that you want the least amount of time between setups so that you can get as many setups as possible during your day.
That's impossible, isn't it?
For instance, we shot the clones first with the camera pointing away from Vader and got all of those setups before turning around to shoot Vader. Now, apart from storyboarding and planning order of setups, we also did a written shot list that had all of the info necessary for all of the departments in visual effects. We were shooting this movie in 4 days. We had to have answered every single question beforehand so that we would do it as effectively as possible. If you want to see this written shot list, there's a link below in the video description along with a few panels of storyboards.
Brings warm feelings to my heart.
But you want to know the best thing about all of this and all of this pre-planning is that things still go wrong. It's inevitable. It's always going to happen.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
For instance, our set construction went over and took up a half of our first shooting day. That's essentially 15% of our entire shoot schedule gone, and we haven't even started yet.
Again, not that abnormal.
But we shot like it was nobody's business, and because we had done so much preparation prior to filming, we knew what we could cut, what we could do to save time, and what we needed, most importantly, to still tell our story, even if we had to lose shots.
I got time.
Now, this is where you really need a great producer as well, because Ian modified our shoot schedule to take away time from the mausoleum and add to the throne room so we could have more time to shoot there and get all the shots that we needed.
This is an enormous responsibility, General.
Now, speaking of the mausoleum, I did overheads for this scene rather than storyboards. I had scouted that location about 3 times prior to the shoot, so I knew it pretty intimately. And I planned for 6 hours of shoot time, but since we took more time in the throne room, that left me with about 2 hours of shoot time at the mausoleum. Whoa! That meant we cut a lot of sets, but honestly, it's cool. We knew what we needed to tell the story. Big wide establishing shot and a cool tracking shot for the dialogue. Look down in the hole, look up from the hole, boom! I could have had a cool overhead shot of Vader walking in, shot going behind the pillars, shot looking out from the hallway, a ton of things. But does it change anything? No. Honestly, I think simplicity is often an overlooked tool in the director's toolbox. And I think this scene works better because it was shot simpler.
As you wish, sir.
Now for scene 3, I did attempt to storyboard it at first. But with the complex blocking and the relationships of the 180-degree line, I just couldn't quite envision it on a notepad. And so I took a page out of my mentor, Simon Crane's book. When he does his massive multi-million-dollar car chases, he often uses Matchbox cars to envision what he wants. And so I did the same thing for scene 3 and used my son's action figures. I blocked the scenes with them, voiced the characters myself, and edited it all together for pacing. From there, I determined what the setups were and put them in the most efficient order as we did for the scene 1 storyboards. I'll share the complete previs of this scene in another edit and compare it to what the finished product is, and you can see how similar they actually turned out being. So that's it, guys. I hope this was entertaining and helpful. I swear by storyboarding, I swear by preparation, because I think I am more creative when I do so. So please share the links below to your projects. I would love to see them. And stay tuned for more behind the scenes videos from Vader and let me know what other questions you have. Until then, guys, stay spiffy and don't do anything I wouldn't do twice.